Welcome everybody. Today I'm going to talk about a topic on private jets. That is, should private jets traveling be encouraged or not? Before we really go into the topic of private jets, let's see a set of picture first. So, I'm familiar with that. That is economics class, right? You see really crowded, the stereotype of really, not stereotype, it is actually really crowded and noisy and uncomfortable, sometimes stinky in private jets. It's just really bad to think about it, especially in long haul flights. But maybe there's a second choice, which is a private jet. This is one of the newest and most advanced private jets, Gulfstream G700. It just looks really elegant, right? And when we go into it, this is the cockpit, really high-tech, advanced cockpit. And let's watch a video about the interior. So elegant, so cozy, right? And actually, it can have everything you want. And this is the meal on the private jets. We're hungry now? Basically, it's self-ordered. You can choose whatever you want, basically. And you can have your meal whenever you want. And it's really formal, and yeah, you just get everything you want. Looks luxury, right? I think no one wants economics after seeing that. But so for private jets, this is what it looks like now. What about in the past? How it was born and how it developed to today's form. We can only talk about whether it should be encouraged or not when after we know where it comes, how it developed. So, like 100 years ago, I can say basically every planes on the earth, most of the planes on the earth were private jets, because of the restrictions of technology and structures. There were usually only one seat for the pilot and one seat for the passenger. So it's more private than most of the private jet planes today, right? So still, back in those ages, it's even, I think, more rare to have a proper plane than having private jets today, because it's really just a start of the plane industry, and the private jets or the most planes is really difficult to be on board for normal people. So this is the era from 1920 to 1950s. And in from 1950s, the private jets actually boomed. Back in those days, many celebrities came to favor in this industry. They started frequently use private jets to transport to everywhere they want. This really promote the development of private jets. More and more people follow this trend, and more private jets manufacturers join the game, such as Gulfstream, Cessna, and Sierra, and other bunch of plane manufacturers. And this looks like pretty much what we have now, right? And so it seems the development of private jets was because there was market for it. Not only celebrities, but also some businessmen and some government officers. And later on, this is to the colorful image age. This is what we usually see now, private jets. And next is what I call the peak of the development of private jets, which is Boeing 747. Yes, the 400 or 500 capacity of economics class seats of Boeing 747 becomes a whole sky palace for private usage. So this is specifically, this is Boeing 747 SP. It is used by, you can guess, yes, the Middle East royal family. So look at how goldy the furnitures are. And it's just infinity luxuries. Oh. And there, it has a floor area of 3,000 square feet. That is insane. Imagine living in a sky palace like this. You just have everything you want, including a king-size bed. Okay, so the development of the private jets can mostly attribute to the market. This is the interview of a businessman who runs a private jet plane. He states that he has seen 15% increment on the customers in recent years, including the business travelers and leisure travelers all come to private jets. He states some benefits of taking private jets, such as, like we all know, actually cozy, comfortable, luxury, and another aspect that he gave an example of, that imagine you're in New York and if you take the private jets, you don't go to the JFK or LaGuardia to be all together with the whole crowds. Instead, you go to some suburbs, small airports, where it is less crowded on the ground on the way to the airport, and also less crowded for the air control. So usually you can get a more smooth way on board and taking off to avoid some big delays and crowds in the larger airports. So this is why many businessmen and rich people really like the private jet travel. It is really convenient, it promotes efficiency, and it has it's just really charming to everybody actually. And as we have talked about so many benefits of the private jet, but at what cost? At what cost? I think maybe the first to your mind is environmental issues, right? You're right. So many people oppose the development of private jets. Actually, at least they want to restrict the industry, because we have seen this is from the average emissions from private jets are soaring. this article, and it has a bunch of charts about the number of private jets increases from 2019 to 2023, increases 28.4%, and total distance 54.2%. And all this increment ultimately results in the carbon dioxide emission, which is the major greenhouse gas from about 10 million tons to more than 15 million tons, increased by 45.8%. This is a worrying trend, right? So it is, private jets are emitting more and more CO2. This is really harmful to the environment that I think most of us don't want to see. Yeah, this is the major cost behind all the benefits and charming places behind those points of private jets. And this is an example of contamination. I have to use the Taylor Swift example. She is not to be blamed for traveling like these, all the roads. She travels most of the time, she travels with her private jet. She is not to be blamed, but we can just have a look at how much she emits from these roads in 2022, which is also mentioned in another source, taxing luxury dirties. There, the author have the statistics of how much her private jets emit. And it turns out it has a total social cost from the CO2 it emitted of $440,000 for a year. That's a lot. Maybe not a lot compared to the actual economics benefit she creates, but it's still astonishing, especially when there are many more people who travels more than she does on private jets, but creates not as much as the benefits she creates. So this is really the cost of the private jets. But there are some other voices that private jets only count a little amount of the total emissions from the whole industrial spheres. And it's even tiny compared to the commercial flights. So why should we focus on that instead of many other bigger and more polluted industry? So there are actually many aspects behind the charming look, fascinating look private jets. There are also problems about social justice. Just as a reminder, there are 80% of the global populations have never be board a plane, like commercial flights, not to mention the private jets. So putting the burdens of emissions from the private jets on the 80% of the innocent, not taking flights populations, it is really unfair and injustice. So what are we gonna do about that? Are we gonna ban all the private jets traveling flights to improve the justice and improve the environment? Maybe. What do you think? I think maybe not, because there might it might generate a slippery slope. Because as if we were to ban the private jets, why not also ban the commercial flights? Because it also generates emissions. Not compared to itself, compared to other like walking, like biking, it's also really contaminated. So it's not a way we are gonna tackle this problem. Not is just simply ban them, but to figure out a better way to make most use of it for the social benefit. So here we introduce a chart about social benefit and social cost. See, this line is marginal social benefit, and here we just assume it equals to the marginal private benefit. And this is the social cost. So we can see that the marginal private cost is tremendously lower than the marginal social cost, which is just the case of the private jets. So how do we make up the gap between them? We should alleviate the marginal private cost to make it the same as the social cost, where we have the social optimal point at point E. This is how we are gonna make most use of the private jets. So how to fill up this gap? We use tax. Tax, like tax goes to the government, and hopefully the government can use the tax for the society and for more society benefits. And so talking about government, the government has the responsibility to regulate and have regulations on the private jets. This is an imagined picture of the future flying taxi, which is also a kind of private jet, if you like. And how does the government want to regulate the private jets? Actually, I have a source about it. It's like, and talk about how the government's gonna regulate the future flying taxis, which we can have a glimpse on how it can be applied to the private jets industry. First, safety and certification standards. So private jets maybe just like taxi companies, it's easier to operate than a huge big commercial flight company. So it is especially important for the safety and certification because it is easier to operate, but not safer than the commercial flights. So certification and some standards are really a must to apply on the company. Second, airspace and traffic management. So maybe in the future, if the private jets is to keep on develop, the traffic management is a really an important aspect of managing private jets. It may be crowded air control, so mostly for the safety, we have to manage do traffic management and financial and operational requirements. This is like regulating many small private companies in other areas, but there are gonna emerge more such companies in the private jets area. So we need to apply these methods, approaches on the future. Fourth, the environmental and community regulations. You need to ensure that it doesn't bother the communities around the airports and have a reasonable environmental impact and consumer protection and privacy. This is also a way to regulate the small burgeoning companies in the future. There are also some existing regulations from the government on the private jets. I can name some examples, like the Schiphol Airport, the busiest airport in Netherlands. It's gonna ban the private jets flights, all private jets flights from 2026. It's maybe kind of extreme, but it indicates its revolution to tackle the issue of the private jets. And an Irish senator called for a 3,000 euros for luxury emissions tax. And a budget bill from France also called for a 70% tax for emissions from private jets. We can see that private jet is a double-edged sword. It can have both benefits for the society and cost for the society. So it really matters how we use the advantage of the private jets and minimize the cost of it. My dear audience, if you look up ahead, look up in the sky, and see a private jet, or in the airport see a private jet, but you can't board on it, don't be jealous or hatred. It may be paying more taxes and promoting more social benefits, such as business activities for the society. And if you are ever able to board on a private jet, don't be boast and think you're upper wealthy or something. So you have more responsibility, and remember what you cost and what you need to pay back. So with proper cognition and appropriate regulations, I believe that private jets can also have public benefits. We can maximize the benefits of the private jets. Thank you.